Hey guys, back here the second half of the week. I'm going to talk about some eccentric training, one that you're already seeing this week with the way that we've been doing the deadlift. And eccentric work is essentially, the best way for me to really describe it is controlling gravity or controlling weight as something with gravitational pull. So I found this really neat article that I'll include that kind of goes over a lot of benefits of this, and I'll just kind of highlight some of these as we're going through. So kind of the first part of what you're probably going to experience when doing an eccentric lift is you're going to notice that your body may shake a little bit. So the really neat thing about the muscular system is your nervous system runs through it. It's controlled by your central nervous system, so messages are going back and forth. Your muscle has a certain amount of muscular endurance that you're capable of performing in a lift, whether that's the weight or the number of reps. And at some point, when it's stressed long enough or with heavy enough weight, it's going to fatigue. And so the way that usually it encounters this is the body ends up starting to shake. That's just kind of the response as a result of it. That shows weakness. Everybody would experience this at some point. Even the strongest men in the world would experience that if the muscle is stressed long enough or heavy enough. And so that's not an uncommon thing to happen, so don't worry about that if you're experiencing that when you're doing that or feeling like that's weird. So what's actually happening is that eccentric work really targets the weakest muscles that you have or areas that are weak. It really kind of brings them to the forefront. But I may pause this here and give you a little bit of a visual to understand what we're trying to accomplish. All right, so got a little bit of visual here. So if you could imagine this entire circle here is a muscle that is actually cut in half. We have different layers of muscles that go down even to a certain depth. So here we've got a smaller muscle fiber, and then it breaks down into smaller ones, and then here even smaller, even down to, if you can even see the dots here toward the bottom, how small they get. So really the intention of that is when we do, for example, just a regular push-up as fast as we can, we're really only targeting the outer layers of muscle, so to speak, for the energy that we need in order to complete the lift. When you actually have to control the lift for a certain duration to hold it down. So for example, on a push-up, instead of going down, up, if I went down 2, 3, 4, maybe even added in a hold, and then came back up, I'm targeting the deepest level of muscle that I can to be able to get as much energy as I can to be able to maintain my posture, my body position, or to perform the lift without caving in and giving up and having that happen. So really what I want to point out is you're really going to see big gains in muscle strength if you're doing eccentric work. That's something that we've tried to incorporate a lot here over the last several years, and you're going to notice that more in several other lifts that we do to really try to target those lower muscles. I'm going to pause this back, and then I'll move back over. All right, so some other benefits this talks about, and I'm not going to go into a ton of detail on some of these. You can read this, but actually shows there's been research that's shown that eccentric work can actually help with your flexibility. Lowers your risk of injury. I mean, when you're doing eccentric work, you're not going to be able to lift as much weight as you could as if you were going fast. So in essence, you're reducing the stress, the amount of stress that's on your body in that particular time. So controlling gravity, you're going to have lighter weight on you. Now we're adding weight, so to speak, because we're going slower, but the actual amount that's there would potentially help our form in that area. All right, and then I'm going to come down here. I'm going to pause. I'm going to find a couple exercises to give some demonstrations of this. All right, here's a great example of an eccentric squat. The guy's really controlling his body on the way down, and then he explodes back up at the top. So that's really the intent of this exercise, and any one that you do, you see going slow, controlling gravity, and then an explosion coming up. Here's another one where a guy's doing a push-up, really controlling his body on the way down, goes down, and then he's going to explode back up to the top. All right, so just back over here, and there's another example here that we could go into several other exercises. There's even really a cool one here on hamstrings and tricep dips. You can click on those when you're going through that. So really kind of the intent like we talked about, I showed you the paper here. We're talking about hitting the deeper layers of muscle with the eccentric work. So you're seeing that this week on the deadlift, and you'll see that throughout the rest of the semester. So have a great weekend, guys. We'll talk to you later.